Got milk?
Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining me again on my channel. Yeah, we got some new things that we're going to be discussing today. First and foremost is this brand new hilt that I just got in. I'm going to go over this in a second. The other thing is, yes, obviously you can see my face. I am shooting from the neck up nowadays. This is probably how all the videos will be going forward. I think I did enough of the neck down for a very long time, and I've been a part of the community for the last few years. I think it's just finally time that I film something full frame, so to speak. So with that, the most important thing is that this hilt came out. What is this hilt? This is the brand new DS2 V2, the collaboration by Halliwax and Starkiller that just released. Starkiller did a reveal. I'm sorry. Halliwax did a reveal on this. Right before I think the holidays. He took like some snapshots in his little basement build there and showed it off with some really cool, interesting lighting. And then finally we got a little reveal video. He had one weathered up. I believe that was actually Starkiller's himself. That was his that he weathered up about a week or two ago. And then finally they put the release out last week. That sold out pretty quickly. I think within only a few hours. I think there was less than 100 units, maybe even less than 75 units, if I'm not mistaken. So consider yourself lucky if you did end up getting one. These things were all pretty much on hand, which is one of the reasons why it arrived so quickly, which I love. It's sometimes it's very it really tests your patience. Sometimes if you are a part of a run that you're funding and you have to basically like wait for everything to come in on. Sometimes there's no way around that. You need the money for deposits to pay for everything. So of course there's that. But the fact that Halliwax and Starkiller were able to produce this right away was pretty great actually, and for the price too. This was $175. For that you get the hilt, you get a clamp, lever, newly designed lever by Starkiller himself, a new cone knob redesigned to replicate the vintage cone knob, D-ring, and a vintage boot stud. So everybody was getting a vintage boot stud. They actually had some waiters. I think Halliwax mentioned that in one of his videos that they were ripping a bunch out. So everybody got one. I thought that was pretty cool for $175. I think that's the least amount I think I've ever paid for an empty V2 in all this time that I've been collecting them. So that's pretty awesome. We all know the history with Starkiller. He has been doing V2s for quite some time. I think he's put out at least one, if not two, static hilts. He had the FX run in 2018, and then he did the Builder's kits shortly after that. And then Halliwax came along, and we all know him. He's an expert in the V2. He's been a great contributor on both the RPF and on the Lightsaber community for a long time. We all know the V2 is one of his big passions. The newer references that these guys pulled together were able to turn this baby out. Their initials are both DS, hence why it is called the DS2 V2. I thought that was actually pretty funny, DS squared. And what we have here is their interpretation of all the new references that they have, and what they've seen over the years, and some of the newer references I think that came into light, into their possession, and that's what they've given us. And there are plenty of options to go with on this. I'm going to go over the hilt itself from top to bottom like I always do. I brought out my old 2018 one that I can show off a little bit as well to compare. But I mean, first off, coming in, it looks incredibly clean, very machine wise. I'm not sure who they used as the machinist, but I know after speaking with Halliwax, he was very, very happy at the fact that these guys were able to replicate a lot of the the measurements that they were giving them, because it is very difficult to replicate errors, so to speak, or replicate imperfections that we all know are in the V2. And the fact that the shop got it right for them, I think, was a huge bonus, and obviously they were both thrilled with that. You can see, we're going to go through all this here. I'm going to come up to the camera a little bit. All right, so you can see the gap that's in between the nipple and the emitter. That gap is also accurate to the hilt itself. There is a very small gap there. You can see the set screws, right? So we got two, we got one in the emitter, we have one over here on the nipple, and then of course repeating on the other side, holding in the broken or snapped off rod that we have in here. This emitter is threaded in, and it's a short thread. Okay. Everyone can see that, I hope. Oh, there we go. Okay. Now everyone's probably going to ask, well, what happens if you wanted the emitter to spin? Well, I spoke to Halliwax about that. He said that that's why you thread, or you can you shave down or file down the threads to get the emitter head to spin, if that's what you're looking for. If that's the look that you want. But you can look at the incredible work on the rings. Now this was one section that these guys were really pushing for. And as you can see, some of like the grooves in here are slightly different. They're not, obviously they're not all symmetrical, but some of the rings are slightly different. But even the valleys and the grooves are slightly different. They're not all the same. And it was amazing that they were able to replicate that with the machinist and got exactly what they wanted. This does come apart at the midsection here. This is threaded at this point. All right, so you can see inside. Good. Inside there as well. Okay. And here, it comes with all of the set screws that you need to make this complete. Okay. Here's the pommel. Great. Pommel has the milling mark. There we go. Good. The cubes on this are just perfect. Really well done height-wise and length-wise too. Just really, really well done. I know I'm not going to line this the right way as I'm doing this, because I'm doing this on the fly here, but I'm going to do my best. All of the holes that are drilled in here do have a purpose. Right, so we've got this one down here, obviously for our cone knob, and of course it's going to fight me. Okay, so this is the cone knob that Starkiller provides, that he redesigned. Now, if we look at, I've got some vintage pieces here that I'm going to break out as we go through all this. This is my vintage cone knob, and I believe this is it's an M6 threading, a length of 10, I believe. This was based on Halliwax's recommendations. Oh, these are not going to come in clear, are they? This is not what I wanted. So I really wanted to show off the knurling on each of these, both the... Oh, good. Okay. So you can see, my hand might be moving a little bit, but the knurling is extremely close. The knob is probably just slightly bigger than the vintage, just slightly. But the knurling is fantastic. The diamond pattern that they got is great. And like I said, if you take the vintage and you scroll this bad boy in there, I said scroll instead of this, screw this bad boy in here, it goes right in. Beauty. Okay. Got a nice vintage boot stud here. This is the one that was supplied. I started bending the tabs on it. I'm not going to sink this guy all the way in, I don't think. But, I mean, you can get that. You'll be able to get that in there. Play with that enough. The clamp that they send does still have the tabs on it. It's a nice clamp, but I'm still going to end up going with a vintage clamp. But the lever is new. So I want to show that off. All right, so here is their lever that Halliwax designed. I'm sorry, that Halliwax and Starkiller put out there. Okay. It's a really nice lever. I'm gonna keep using this. I know that Roy at Wanawanga, I think, is going to be coming out with a new lever at some point in time for the V2. Maybe I'll upgrade mine at some point. That's a good possibility. But for now, I'm definitely going to use what Starkiller provided. We got a nice D-ring. I also have my own vintage D-ring from a really old camera bag that's pretty much identical. This ring is slightly fatter. The one that Starkiller provides is slightly fatter by a little bit, but size-wise, I mean, they pretty much have the same profile. So I am going to be using that. Like I said, the only thing you really needed to go out and get was the card by Sloth Furnace. All right, you just had to go and pick this up. Everything else, it comes with it. So I thought this was fantastic. I do want to show you guys the blade plug and why it's designed the way that it is. Take this all the way out. So you're going to have two really long set screws. Those are the ones that are going to go in the emitter cap, obviously, to hold the nipple in place. Not done yet. Take that just a little bit more. So this could be used to either have a motor inside, like the actual V2 in the film. This could also be used to set up as FX. It is made for both. Or you could just keep it static. Static is probably the way that I'm going to end up going on this. But the fact that you have all of those options is fantastic. You do have a nice little blade depth in here. I believe this holds a 7/8 inch blade, for those that are wondering. And then, of course, these set screws in here are the ones that are going to be your blade retention screws. Now, inside, you can see the depth right in there. Nice and flat, perfect for NeoPixel. But if you look at, so let me show you guys the nipple here, right? Let's get this in here. So you have these really nice, you can see these steps coming down the nipple in here. Really well done. This will, if you put it straight in, sink. Okay? Why? Why is it doing that? Well, one, if you're doing NeoPixel with this, you're going to have pins in here. You're probably going to have short pins in here for a thin neck. You don't want this touching, you don't want the metal making contact. So they shortened it up so that the way that it's supposed to sit in here, and you can see that these threads are on the bottom, so the threads from the emitter go right through the nipple, and it will hold it in its proper place and where it's supposed to go. So this way it's not making, the metal's not making contact with the pins. The other reason why is that if you are making this static, and the way that Halliwax did it on his video is they had bearings in here. And this, when it sits on top of the bearing, actually keeps it nice and flat. And then, of course, as you're screwing it in with the thread, with the set screws, it just holds it in place. I thought that was a great forward-thinking way of making this nipple, so that everything does have a purpose. Because when you first throw it in here, you're like, oh, this is great, and it just sinks all the way, and you're like, why is it doing that? And then when you start to think about it, you're like, all right, well, there's enough space in here now to actually have in there the short pins and a nice little 3D printed holder for your NeoPixel, for your PCB inside the emitter. Overall, it's a. I mean, you guys know my history with Starkiller. I have a bunch of his hilts. I have his V2. I have his Hero and the Yuma kits. I bought those, and I'm just very happy to get this. This is going to probably be my big Shelf Queen V2. I'm going to show off the inside again. Right there. Okay, so good amount of room, nice and install friendly for the people that are going to be installing it. There are some holes along the clamp, underneath the clamp in here. I will let Starkiller and Halliwax just tell you why those are there. They do have a purpose. These can be used as also, I would think, to hold down a chassis. But they do have other, there is a purpose for why those are there. Other than that, can I think of anything else? Really well done here. This is stuff that you guys, most people won't even notice this stuff, but there is like a small chamfered edge right here along the wind vane. This proper step down, that's right. The way that this is angled at the bottom here as it comes to this ring. Just again, really well done. Here, this is nice and tight, the way that it's supposed to be. This little, again, this little protruding step down edge from the ring section transferring into the clamp. This overall just very, very well detailed, as we all come to expect from these guys with their reputations. Just really, really well done. All right, now if I can show off, well, first I'm going to throw in, let me get these guys back in. And if Halliwax finds out I held this hilt without my black gloves like he has, he's going to be very upset with me. But it's going to him anyway, so he'll fix it. Okay. All right, good. So everything's back in place. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab this right now. All right, so here's my finished 2018 fully vintaged out Anakin Starkiller FX V2. Alex did a fantastic job with this. I thought it came out. I thought it came out great. And now you can see here, these guys, the height is perfect. There are a lot of similar appearances between the one from the new one from the DS2, the DS squared, to the 2018. The ring section was a big focus to get fixed. The emitter and the pommel was pretty much perfect. So a lot of that I think really was left alone. But just very well detailed. I can't wait to see how this all comes out. But I mean, as you guys can see here, I'm going to try and do a little side by side here if I can. Again, very sorry, hard to freehand this whole thing. But it almost looks wrong being so clean, right? Like it doesn't look like you get this thing and you're like, oh, okay, it's nice, but then it turns into this. It turns into what we're going to be getting here, and I'm really looking forward to that. So, just wanted to show that off as well. So, guys, just a really quick going over this whole thing. If you did get one of these and it's on its way, you're going to be very excited once you do get it. But hey, guys, listen, have no fear, right? Because if you missed out on this, there's a couple of other V2s that are out there right now if you're a big V2 fan, right? So we all know that Dave P had a V2 run that was successful. It just came out towards the end of last year. We have the DS squared right now, and then later on at some point this year, Veracity Labs is going to be throwing out their V2, and that one's going to be an FX V2. That one I plan on getting because I do want a new NeoPixel FX in my collection for a V2. The only one I have right now is the first generation Solos Hold, and that thing's still holding old Tricrete technology. That's still holding the old boards. That's not even anything new. I haven't gone back and updated it. I'm really not sure if I'm going to. I've done actually with a bunch of my newer hilts recently. I've actually gone back and installed Profi boards in a lot of them and did NeoPixel. I gutted a few and did that, and I'm glad I did. That one, the Solos Hold one, I might just leave. That was a real difficult build when I did that. That was my second build. I remember that. That was a pain. But I mean, the chassis design was beautiful. Goth did a beautiful work on it. It was just, first time, it was like my second chassis I was doing. It was a master chassis. It was, it was a lot to take on at the time. I could probably go back now, and if I wanted to do it, I don't know if I have the time. But that's going to be the Velocity Labs V2. That's going to be my FX hilt when I eventually do that one. But if you did get one of these, I am really looking forward to people doing FX in this, because I really can't wait to see how that comes out, because I bet you it's going to rock. I'm looking forward to seeing that. So, and especially for the people that end up designing a crystal chamber or chassis in here. So I'll be waiting to see. I'll be looking forward to on the Luke Facebook page, the Luke Return of the Jedi page, his lightsaber page, how everyone designs any really cool chassis for this or crystal chambers. I want to see what people come up with. But guys, with that, I think I'm gonna end this. I will do a review, of course, when Halliwax sends this thing back, show it off a little bit, but I just wanted to show it to you bare bones, how it comes. Like I said, just got this yesterday. I really wanted to kind of just take a day and look everything over and see how it is. It looks fantastic. Very happy with this. So to Halliwax and Starkiller, you guys nailed it. Thank you guys very much for doing this run. And thank you again. I mean, again, guys, you're price-wise and for all the accessories that you're getting with this, very, very hard to beat. So if you got on the run, fantastic. I hope you guys get to enjoy these hilts once they start coming in. And yeah, that's about it, guys. So if you need anything at all, just leave me a comment down below. Hopefully see if I can get a couple more videos in. Maybe some hilts that I gutted and reinstalled to kind of go over that a little bit. See how that goes. All right, guys. Thanks so much for everything. Take care. Oh, wait. And to celebrate the release of the new Lego Star Wars game, the Skywalker Saga, this guy came with my deluxe edition. So a nice little Luke with blue milk figurine. So I figured I'd throw that in here today just to show it off. All right. That's it, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.